This is update for September 28, 2023, day 582 of the war, end of the date update. Also catch up for September 27. There's not really much going on, so I'm just gonna first discuss some general updates, and I'm gonna switch to the front line after that. So first, there's interesting news out of China and Russia. Uh, Basically, China is now lifting uh, control or basically export ban on Russian pork meat to China. The importance of this is that pork meat is the main type of meat that's being used, staple sort of meat or main source of protein in China. Uh, the fact and this Russian pork was banned in China for at least 15 years, and some resources state that it was banned for basically 30 years, so basically forever. And the fact that China is allowing Russian pork uh, is important, in my opinion, in terms of preparation for the war, because this is, Russian pork will be basically source of stability, social stability, if there is a problem with the food supply in China. Now a little bit about Russia, Russian economy. Russian currency sort of resuming its devaluation. It hit 97 Russian rubles for one US dollar. So situation there is not, let's say, stable, is not stabilizing, similar to the situation with the gasoline and diesel fuel. Simply, as I mentioned before in the previous video, is uh, Russian government is consuming too many resources to finance war, or basically extracting too many resources from the economy to finance the war, and that's creating inflation in Russia and shortages. They obviously this is not sort of critical. It's not the end of the world yet, but things are definitely on the wrong track. How soon they will become critical, well, remains to be seen. As I said before, may take a while, but looking at how quickly the situation is deteriorating again with the gasoline and diesel fuel, it may mean that things will sort of unravel much faster. There's another problem looming for Russia. This is definitely not a short-term problem, but there is a shortage of mobile phone stations. So basically, cellular station, what they call base stations, that are used to transmit cellular mobile signal. And Russia basically has that cannot buy it from anywhere around in the world, and so they by 2025 there will definitely be a deterioration, or they call degradation, in the quality of the mobile service, simply because a lot of those stations will need repair. They need to cannibalize them, and so they will see first signs of degradation. But again, this is 2025. It's not immediate. Not immediate problem, and as I said before, this is the only part of sanctions that somewhat works and could be effective and efficient against Russia is really technology, because that's where Russia is nearly 100% dependent on the West, and simply cannot find other solutions. So similar to what I said about the passenger aircraft, where there is clearly the problems are developing due to the lack of maintenance of Airbus and Boeing airplanes in Russia. Now let's switch to the situation on the front line, and just more closer sort of to the military situation. So first, I want to mention, just want to show this picture because this is another good example why wheeled equipment is simply inadequate for the the uh, for the battlefield in Ukraine, or for that matter, Russia, for basically Eastern European part of the world. As you can see, this is French, believe it's French IFVs that are basically stuck and not able to do anything simply in the field. It's all because it's all wheeled, and this is just example. Similar situation is happening with others, and especially with that artillery that's wheeled. The best sort of the most adequate piece of equipment for Ukraine and for Russia is really tracked one. Then there's another development that's negative for Ukraine is Russian side is having now clearly advantage in the quantity and I would say quality of use of FPV UAVs. Basically, it's like tactical killer drones or kamikaze drones that are being used by both sides. But at this point, Russia has many more of them. And just because there is larger quantity, there is also larger number of casualties on Ukrainian side as a result of use of those. And actually, one of them sort of, I wouldn't say tricks, but one of the ways how Russia managed to increase the use of FPV drones is actually the great quality of those, which is very interesting approach. So for those who don't know, FPV drones require high skilled pilots because they're not easy to control during the flight, and in general they're just not easy. First, Russia attempted to basically create FPV pilot schools everywhere, and apparently didn't really work, or it probably takes quite a while to train, and just not quick and easy solution basically. So what they did, they actually degraded the speed and everything in technical capabilities of those FPV drones, and that basically reduce the threshold for the quality of the pilot. So they can basically they can now become sort of much more widely used by the soldiers on the ground. So you can have many more pilots than before, and then you, as a result, obviously you increase the use of them and casualties on Ukrainian side. So that's obviously definitely absolutely negative development, um, because it creates problems on a tactical level for Ukrainian infantry. It demoralizes and so on, because there's almost no effective way to fight with those FPV drones, with the exception of obviously trenches that are covered and so on, but you don't have that in many situations. That's not really easy to create and so on. So this is potentially down the road is a big problem for Ukrainian side. Now let's switch to the walk through the front line. I'm gonna start in a clockwise fashion, as I always do, starting from the north. So the situation along the state border, without any meaningful changes, all typical exchange of adversarial activities, but nothing of really importance. Now let's switch to the North Luhansk front line. Things here also quiet. Just it's just the sort of degraded to the level of just tactical fights. Nothing major here either. Now let's switch to the North Donbass front line. Things here the same way. Northern sector is quiet, and even southern is quiet. Nothing really happening here either. Now let's move to the central Donbass front line. Things here also essentially the same. pretty much everything is quiet. Even the attacks against Mariinka are fewer in number and weaker in strength. So things are kind of freezing here as well. Now let's move to Zaporizhya front line. Uh, no major Ukrainian attacks, things fairly quiet. The same is true on the Russian side. Nothing really major is happening here either. And then, last one is situation along Dnipro River is basically also on freeze. Nothing major is happening here. I would say, as I said before, in the previous video, it does look that both sides are out of sort of ideas what to do, essentially, because the sort of typical strategy Russia was employing, they cannot do it anymore. They don't have enough shells. Ukraine is also there's not enough skill. There's poor organization and so on. So the Ukrainian forces not really able to do proper offensive and really make a decisive breach in Russian defenses and so on. And it really just creates casualties, which essentially lead to nowhere. So in some way, it's nearly perfect strategic sort of dead end for both sides, perfectly similar to what was going on during World War One. So it remains to be seen how this is going to get resolved. But for now, I would say I don't see any catalyst of how things will change in either direction. But at the same time, having said that, for Ukraine, it means losing the war, because Ukraine cannot. It's a war of attrition. Every day passes by basically reduces Ukrainian forces, and Russia, as I said many times before, 4 times larger. One other thing I forgot to mention is that Russia is actively destroying Ukrainian grain export infrastructure. So I think on the 27th, they just destroyed export terminal that was pretty brand new. It was a 2.2 million throughput capacity per year. So that's just it's pretty significant amount. If you can imagine that Ukraine could export, let's say, in the best years, probably up to like 30-40 million tons. It's not a small change, and this is just one example. And as I said before, this is deliberate strategy of undermining Ukrainians' ability to continue fight by destroying economy, destroying industries that provided value add that still worked even during the war. So unfortunately, that's pretty negative development for Ukraine, and there is not much that can be done at this point. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye bye.